Hello everyone and welcome to round 3 of the US Chess Championship. We have a very nice game between Fabiano, Caruana and John Burke. Both of them had a pretty good start. Fabi started out with 2 draws, but Burke started with a win against Dariusz Świercz and also a draw against Lennart. So we'll see what happens in this one. And for those of you who do not know, Fabi dropped out of the 2800 club. He's currently at 2799. So he only needs to gain 1 rating point in this classical tournament to be back into the 2800 club. Otherwise, Magnus will be residing there alone for, well, until someone joins him. So that being said, let's check out the game. Fabi with the white pieces opens with e4. And also, if you guys are interested, John Burke is the youngest player ever to achieve the rating of 2600. So Burke replies with e5, that's not an f-pawn. We have knight to f3, knight to c6, and now bishop to b5. Fabi goes for the Ruy Lopez. a6, Morphy's defense, bishop to a4, and knight to f6. We have d3, the Anderssen variation. Those of you who have been watching the Morphy saga know why it's the Anderssen variation. We have b5, chasing back the bishop, bishop to b3, and bishop to c5. So this is very standard stuff. We have c3. Preparing some future strikes in the center, and also this bishop will be retreated to c2 as the knight usually attacks it via the a5 square. So d6 and now bishop to g5, pinning the knight. We have h6, chasing back the bishop, and bishop to h4. And now there are a couple of options you could go for here. The position is a known one. You could castle, you could further harass the bishop with the g5, or you could play what Mr. Burke played here, and that is bishop to e7. It's a known move in the Ruy Lopez, has many purposes, but in this particular position it is a new one, so it's as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So one of the useful ideas behind bishop to a7 is that when the a file opens up, black's rook will not be hanging, so you don't have to really hurry up with the development of the light square bishop. But you'll see what I mean by this. We have castles, and now knight to a5, chasing back the bishop, bishop to c2, and now g5, so expanding on the king side and queen side both, bishop to g3, and now knight to h5, with the idea of just capturing this bishop. But also in some lines maybe the knight can come to f4. It's going to be a very powerful piece. If black wants to eliminate it, maybe we can open up the g file to be used for attacking purposes. We have a4. Now a4 is even nicer, as the knight on a5 is undefended, so captures would allow us to have more than one attack. So knight captures on g3, attacking the rook. Of course, Fabi recaptures with the h-pawn, and knight back to c6. And now Fabi captures on b5, a captures, and now as the bishop is on a7, our rook on a8 is not hanging. So there you have it. We have knight to a3. Fabi continues developing with tempo. The b5 pawn is under attack, and now black has to decide how to react to this. Do you just advance the pawn to b4, because that's often a very good move, or do you go bishop to a6 and defend the pawn like Mr. Burke did in this game? So here Fabi plays bishop to b3. The bishop will be incredibly useful on this diagonal, and now knight to e7. Black wants to start advancing the pawns to c5, so Fabi beats him to it. He plays d4, and now e captures on d4. And now, although you want to capture with the c pawn and improve your center, then you just invite black to play c5, and then black pretty much solved all of his problems. He has a very nice bishop pair here. That's a weird arrow. He has a very nice bishop pair here, and he's going to have a very enjoyable game. So Fabi captures with the knight, and this comes now with a tempo, as the b5 pawn is again hanging. So b4 now, opening up an attack on the knight, but also on the rook on f1. So knight to c4, the only move, and now you have to do something because your bishop on a6 is hanging. So bishop captures on c4, bishop captures, and only now Burke castles. And now Fabi says, all right, I could capture here. This will double my b pawns, but I will be up a pawn. So pawn captures on b4. And now what do you play here? Well, you could consider something like bishop to b6, just offering a rook trade. You are down a pawn, but it's a doubled b pawn, and it's not even a pass pawn. So you could capture on d4. You could do a lot of things, but black decides to play d5. offers another pawn for some activity. And okay, Fabi accepts it. We have e captures on d5. Not bishop captures because you really don't want to give up your light square bishop. So pawn captures on d5 and now queen to d6. But now there is a problem in this position, and even though it seems like black activated for the price of a few pawns, the position is winning for Fabi. So feel free to pause the video and try to find this move while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on going for this incredible idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's knight to e6. No, it's not. That's a joke. It's, of course, knight to b5, attacking the queen and the bishop, and our rook and knight are now attacking the bishop twice. So the queen will capture on b4 now, attacking the bishop here on c4, and black was probably hoping that we might see a draw here, like rook captures and then queen captures here. We just trade everything, but here Fabi just played b3, and this b3 is the important move you had to see after you decided to play knight to b5, because now what does black play? The bishop is hanging and you have to do something. The problem is, if you play something like bishop to b6, we simply trade rook captures, and play queen to f3. And now we will have incredible pressure here. Look at this bishop and queen. Once we push this pawn, then even the rook might be hanging on a8. So after something like rook to f8, getting rid of both threats, now queen f6, going after the h6 pawn. And there's really no good way to defend. If king h7, we just play d6, and that's it. The entire position just falls apart. The knight is attacked, the f7 pawn is attacked. If bishop captures, then we can simply go queen g6 if the knight moves. So there really isn't all that much. Now the queen is no longer guarding the knight because the pawn is here. The queen can't capture because the knight guards the pawn. So we might see something like knight to g6, but then even d captures on c7. We have a beautiful pass pawn on c7. That's not the only winning move. Most of them are winning, but just to give you an idea. So just moving the bishop, not all that great. So here we have queen to c5, adding a defender here, but now again queen to f3. And now, what do you play here? Well, king to g7. Of course, he wants to prevent queen to f6, going after the h6 pawn. But now, Fabi has rook to a6. Now, again, we're threatening to bring the queen over to f6. And again, bishop to b6 just fails to the same idea. Captures, and then we play d6, and that's it. The rook is hanging, the knight is hanging, the f7 is hanging, so everything is just hanging here. So after rook to a6, black plays f6. Yes, this does prevent the queen from reaching f6, as the rook now defends it, but this is not one of those positions where it's okay to play f6. And now Fabi goes for the absolute simplest idea, and that is rook f to a1. Triples up here, or rather has now a triple attack on the a7 bishop. We defended knight to c8, and now Fabi just plays the, I believe, the most beautiful move of the game, and that is king to h2. That's it. It was in this position on move 29 that John Burke resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. And it's a remarkable position because there is not a single piece that black can move. You can't move the bishop, the rook hangs. You can't move the rook, we're just going to win the bishop. You can't move the knight because the knight defends the bishop. You can't move the queen defends the bishop. The rook is stuck here guarding this f6 pawn. If the rook moves, we're going to capture it. So there is no move black can make here other than some sort of a silly pawn push. And even if you try to waste a move with some like rook to f7 to still keep an eye on this pawn, d6 once again wins the game. Now this rook is hanging, everything is hanging, and if you just repeat rook to f8, we don't even have to capture here. We can even play d7, dislodge the knight, we can just, play anything and it's still completely winning. So it's a position that really went wrong for black. He had a good position for the most of the game, but then at some point after he decided to, probably to give up this pawn here, or maybe you could have done something better, even sooner. It's an active move, but playing an active move against Fabi, that's not really justified. It's just not going to work because, like I said, Fabi is currently almost a 2800 player, 2799.8. So that's really close, and probably he will reach his goal of joining the 2800 member club after this tournament. But we'll see. It's a strong opposition. Just because Fabi is the highest rated player here doesn't mean that he's going to win. And if you check out the previous US Chess Championships, it's never that simple. But yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it and that you've learned a little bit more about the Ruy Lopez and how wild it really is. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Ita. I hope you have a great day and many, many more to come. And of course, filled with chess and joy. And I would like to thank Idil Gurmuk, Micah Kennedy, Tom Darrell, and Robert Kiefer for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the US Chess Championship, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.